My name's Paul Williams and I'm one of the admissions officers here in the Department of English at the University of Exeter, and welcome to our Facebook Live event. Over the next half hour I'm joined by my colleague Lisa Stairs.
Hello.
And Eloise Hardy.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking to you about English here at the University of Exeter. We'll say about a few words each and then take your questions, but we can start asking them right now. So please do start firing them at us and we'll try and get through as many of them as we can in the next half hour. So just to tell you a bit about what we do in the Department of English. We're a very big department, and because of that we offer a little bit of everything really. We do Anglo-Saxon poetry, we do Victorian visual culture, we do Hollywood cinema. If you can think of something that it might involve the study of English literature or film or popular culture, then we probably do it here. We're a world-leading research institution, and that means we're often hosting conferences where people from around the world come and deliver papers and share their ideas. So over the summer, for example, the British Association of Victorian Studies is having their annual conference with us. We are a big department, as I say, and that means that we offer a lot of different modules. That includes, so for instance, right now we're offering over 30 modules for students to take next year in the third year. Our degree programme is based on giving you the skills and the knowledge that you're going to need to be a kind of an effective scholar of English literature and film and popular culture. So in the first year you can expect to be doing quite broad courses that are about conveying ideas about large periods or genres, or how the nuts and bolts of writing an essay. When you get to the second year of your degree, you'll be specialising a little bit more, perhaps looking at particular periods or modes of expression. And we also do some creative writing if that's something you're interested in doing. And then by the third year, you'll be working on modules that are quite specialised and reflect our own research interests. So Lisa, for example, will be offering a module on women in the cinema. I work on comics and graphic novels, and I offer a module that looks at sort of comics, graphic novels in France and England and the US, from roughly the 1960s up to the present. And that should give you an idea of the kind of specialisation that's going on in the third year. And it's not just about specialisation in terms of our teaching. Hopefully when you get to your third year, you've got a really high developed sense of who you are as a scholar, and that's when you can write a dissertation that's 8,000 words long, and Eloise is writing one right now, where you choose a subject that's of your own interest, and you get supervision and support in creating a larger project, a larger document really, that's based on analysing that in some detail. And of course, our graduates go out to work in areas like law, publishing, the fashion industry, acting, teaching, further study. There are lots of things that students from Exeter go on to do, but those are some of the main ones that we often see. So I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Lisa.
Hi, my name's Dr. Lisa Stead and I'm a lecturer in film studies. We're a Department of English and Film, so if you want to pursue that kind of interest, I can definitely answer some questions about that. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about were some of the other opportunities that are available to you around your course and within your courses through some of the particular specialisms and resources that we have here at Exeter. So we have, for example, the Bill Douglas Cinema Museum, which is a moving image history museum that contains all kinds of ephemera from the history of Victorian optical culture up to the present day cinema. And our students conduct projects in there, they volunteer in there, they go on tours in that institution, they also create exhibitions. So if you're interested in looking beyond just the text, we have great resources for that. We also have our Heritage Collections Centre, which has literary manuscripts and literary archives from writers such as, for example, Ted Hughes or Daphne du Maurier. And many of our students work within their modules within those archives or use those archives to undertake their dissertation projects. As well as these two institutions, we have our new Digital Humanities Lab, which is a really exciting space for thinking about different ways of doing English. On one of our first year modules, for example, Rethinking Shakespeare, Students are able to learn about code and how to do coding alongside the study of what we might think of as traditional literary texts. We also use that lab to engage with things like gaming culture, for example. So on some of our third year options, you can engage with the way that war and visual media has bled from literary papers into moving image history into gaming cultures. So beyond the more traditional study of literature and film, we also have a number of other exciting resources that you can engage with. If you are a student with us here at Exeter, there are also a variety of other ways to get involved in our community. So that might involve, for example, becoming part of our student staff liaison, where you have a chance to give feedback on your modules and on your degree programme and affect positive change. It might involve submitting some of your writing to the undergraduate journal, where you can see your work published. Or it might involve becoming a member of the English Society, which is run by and for English students. Or you could come along to Film Talk, which is a weekly kind of book group for film, where you get to discuss the latest releases at the cinema. So being part of the Exeter English community involves our classrooms, but it also involves everything in and around the classroom.
Hi, my name's Eloise and I'm a third year. I'll be graduating in July if everything goes to plan. I chose Exeter because when I came here, I fell in love with the campus, I fell in love with the resources, and I fell in love with the way the course was presented to me. What I didn't like so much about other universities was that it often felt quite narrow and not very broad in terms of topics that you could look at or things that you could study. But when I came here, there were, I think in my first year, there was definitely a broad range of modules that you could engage with, like critical theory, which is where you kind of realise that there are a lot of things that you don't know about the world that you probably should do to try and look to begin looking at literature. And then in my second year, the amount of modules that are offered to you increase massively again, and you can start to branch off into the specialisms that maybe you would like to start looking at. So in my second year, I took Humanities After the Human, which was a critical theory course kind of looking at how sort of different ways of looking at the figure of the human in literature, kind of how the figure of the human might progress. So looking at cyborgs, for example, which sounds weird, but it's actually very interesting. And I also took Victorian literature and American literature as well. And then this year I'm in the middle of doing my dissertation, which is 8,000 words, where I decided to specialise in modernism and body theory, which stemmed a lot from philosophy and criticism that I'd done in my first and second year. Talking a little bit about student life, Exeter's, as I said already, it's a beautiful, beautiful campus, and there's you often feel like you wouldn't have to leave the campus for lots of things to do. You can engage with societies, as Lisa already said. English Society Expose, which is the newspaper here on campus, where you can be involved in writing lots of really interesting articles, and then further on you can become part of the committee and become part of disseminating ideas for articles. XTV, which is the TV station, and Expression FM, which is the radio station. There's loads of really interesting things you can do, including sport as well. Loads of opportunities for sport here. I think that's... accommodation. Well, when I came here from the first year, I was really nervous because I came from a girls' school, so I was very nervous about kind of being with lots of different, kind of experiencing something very different than I had done previously. But that is something that you really get eased into, and you've got a lot of help here in terms of older students that show you around a lot and help you a lot during Freshers Week, and lots of opportunities in Freshers Week to kind of branch off and meet new people as well. So it's very interesting, and there's lots of things to do. It's very exciting.
Thank you, Eloise. So, I had a question from Kirsten about how students are assessed on BA English and what coursework entails. you want to take this or shall I?
Yeah, I think we do it between us.
Yeah.
BA English, so there's a range of different kinds of assessments that are a mix of coursework and examination, and it's weighted more heavily towards coursework than examination. And coursework involves essays, but there are also a number of different kinds of innovative forms of assessment that you can engage with. So they might include, for example, creating a wiki or some kind of digital project. It might involve a group presentation, or it might involve a group exhibition, so working with archives or primary sources. And what you'll find when you move into your third year in particular and you have specialist options, sometimes different tutors have particular assessments that are unique to the thing that you're studying. So for example, I have a colleague who runs a module on surrealism, and one of the assessments on that module is to create your own surrealist object. If you take creative writing courses, some of your assessment will involve portfolios of your written work that may be poetry or short stories, or you may be writing a film script for a short film. So there is quite a variety of different kinds of assessment modes that you can take here on the course at Exeter.
I mean, to give another example, I've helped assess a module in the third year called the 21st Century Museum, which is all about sort of contemporary museum practice. And one of the assessments on there involves students perhaps doing work in a museum. In one case, they design their own museum trail, as an app, so that you could kind of walk around Exeter and follow a trail. And they'll be assessed on kind of their presentation of that process of developing the app, but also kind of what they learned, the trial runs they did, how they kind of try to future-proof it. So, as Lisa was saying, we do a lot of very innovative assessments. Yeah. There are exams, and a single honours student could expect to do 2 exams at the end of the first year, 3 to 4 exams at the end of the second, and 1 exam halfway through the third year. But that is, that in terms of those are sort of sit down on oral exams, perhaps in a hall. We're talking much less than half of your degree will be based on that type of assessment. It's much more both the innovative assessments and the essay. I mean, we do a lot of essays, yeah, of increasing length as you get further along.
Part of the question from Kirsten was about what does coursework entail. Maybe we could say just a little bit about what essay writing is like at Exeter or undergraduate level. The things that we teach you to do and we help train you to do, particularly in the first year, we have a module called Academic English, which is about helping you develop your skills in researching, in referencing, and in structuring an essay. So one of the things that we sort of nurture in you as students is the opportunity to develop your own argument. So instead of repeating information or showing us what you know, we're very interested in teaching you how to formulate what you know into an original perspective and an original point of view. So we're developing those kinds of skills, and in your coursework you'll learn how to gather materials, make an analysis of a text, and think about context, think about theory, and bring these things together to give us your own particular well-researched perspective. And all of those skills are really transferable into all different kinds of careers or pathways that you might take after your degree. But there's a lot of support structured from kind of day one of your degree in how to write for university level and how to develop yourself as a writer as well as a kind of thinker and a speaker.
Can I just add as well is definitely in your first year, you're kind of taught these basic skills that you'll improve as you move on through university, but you definitely get out what you put in, and you have to do a lot of your own reading and tailor your own. You're taught how to be a better researcher as well as a writer and a reader. So those are really things that you need to put in as much as possible to get the most out of your assignments, and that will be reflected in your grades as well, which is very important. That's what you're taught to do, I think.
If you're interested in study abroad, there are a few ways in which you can take an English degree here at Exeter, and that involves a study abroad component. One of those is what's called English with Study in North America, which is a 3-year degree where the second year is spent at one of our partner institutions, in either the US or Canada. So that's kind of one way of studying in English, but then going abroad and coming back again. We also offer 2 different 4-year degrees that involve study abroad. One of those is where you would study the first 2 years here at Exeter, exactly the same English degree as single honours English. The third year would be studying at university in another country, and your 4th year would be what for many single honours students would be the 3rd and final year. But you can also do something similar to that with the first 2 years here in Exeter studying English, the third year away and the fourth year coming back and doing your final year. You can also do something similar where that third year is actually work experience abroad. You do have to organise the work experience yourself, although we give some sort of advice and guidelines on that. But there are various ways in which you can do an English degree and still sort of study abroad, say perhaps at a different university overseas, and then come back and finish your degree here. So we've had some questions then from Ribaz asking about learning English and Into. Into is an organisation that the University of Exeter is in partnership with that sort of provides perhaps English language courses in a lead up to taking a degree here. I think that's one of the quite a specialist area that perhaps it would be best if people will get back to you on the comments section about the details of that.
I used to work at Into
actually.
Oh, well. Into is a building on the centre of campus. If English is not your first language and you want to study an English degree with us here, there are in-sessional programmes at Into that can offer you support for academic study that includes language skills and includes things like seminar skills. So there is support available on campus if you need additional advice and support with your English language skills alongside studying English as a degree.
So we've got a question from Alex about do the contact hours for single honours English change each year? They do. So a first year single honours student will do 10 hours of contact time a week. It then drops perhaps to 7 hours in the second year and then 6 in the third. Though it's actually, particularly in the second and third year, because the modules you can take change, it becomes much harder to put an exact figure on it. And it's worth actually pointing out that one of the things you can do here at Exeter, if you want a single honours English degree, you can take 25% of each year in another subject. It doesn't have to be the same subject each year either. So if you want to, say, do a bit of French in your first year, physics in your second, and politics in your third, you need to there need to be spaces in those departments, but our degree structure is built so you can do that. That would obviously have a knock-on effect on the actual hours that you're doing.
And our contact hours factor in time for you to be able to complete the reading. Because an English degree is focused heavily on textual material, you need time independently to prepare, but we help you structure that time outside of the classroom. So, for example, we have study groups where we encourage students to meet in small groups to discuss and to prepare and talk about their ideas before they come to class. And it's an opportunity to structure some of your independent study time and just to kind of think about what you want to say before you're in a classroom space. And that can often really help students with their confidence, with getting to know other people, and to really getting the most out of their time in the classroom.
So we've got a question from Kirsten about whether we have set reading lists before the course starts. And the answer is yes. Our reading lists are actually set quite far in advance, so we've pretty much already set the reading for all of 2018-19 modules. So yes, we set them up quite far in advance. As you can imagine, that's so students can make a start on the reading in the summer before they're going to take that module. Which do you think, Eloise? Is it a good idea?
Yeah, it's worth reading as many of your, particularly I think beginnings is still a module in the first year, isn't it? Particularly beginnings, in that you'll have quite a wide variation of texts. I don't know. In my first year, it started with the 2 first Genesis stories, which are fairly okay in terms of getting through those in the week that they're allocated. But you only have a week per text, so I don't know whether they still do Paradise Lost.
I believe they do.
Yeah, you need time to get through Paradise Lost. I can't say that enough. With the larger texts, you definitely need more time to engage with those. So maybe in the summer before. See, I didn't do this, so I'm telling you now. When you have the larger texts, definitely read them before, because then it takes so much pressure off in the first term when you're doing beginnings, because otherwise, unless you're some kind of super reader person, it's going to be very difficult for you to read those texts in the time allocated to you. So, yeah.
So we've got about 5 minutes to go, so if you do have any final questions, please send them in. But we've also got a question on what texts are compulsory in the first year. So we've heard actually about some of those already.
Yeah.
We also do Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf. Some of the texts, compulsory texts, will only be apparent perhaps when you're looking at any sites. So we do these things called, all the texts you have to buy on a read of any great length are established quite, I say, early on.
Yeah.
So any text that students have to buy for next year, we've already decided. But we do have certain modules that are compulsory in the first year. Approaches to Criticism is one, and that runs across the whole first year and covers lots of different schools and modes of critical theory. So different, if you like, models of what literature is and how we sort of study it, roughly over the last 100 years. And that module is, it's like a reading pack that you buy from the print shop. And you'll read, on that module, you'll read perhaps 2 essays a week that aren't necessarily very long, but they are quite dense. That is compulsory reading, but that's a case of where you might be buying a pack from the print shop when you get here.
And don't be disheartened by the approaches to criticism reading, because it's not necessarily anything that you'll have come across before, so it may take you a while to really engage with those things. I know I really struggled with it in first year, but I then took critical theory in second year and third year as well, so it turned out to be something that I really loved and engaged with, and I still sometimes have trouble engaging with it, but it's very interesting and it's kind of very fundamental to your whole university career and further. I think it's stuff that you really need to know.
It might be worth saying that we actually, the University of Exeter is spread across several different campuses, and as well as offering an English degree here at Exeter, what we call the Streatham campus, we also offer an English degree in Cornwall at our Penryn campus, which is about halfway between the towns of Truro and Falmouth. If you want to hear more about Penryn, which is sort of set in a really beautiful part of the country, I taught there myself for a semester, and I'd have students that would go surfing in the morning before they'd come into my seminars in the afternoon. There's going to be a talk tomorrow at 11 o'clock UK time that will tell you more about what studying English at Penryn would look like. So we've got a few more questions. So Atanu has asked about literature in the Victorian age and sort of on what we teach. Exeter is actually a real a powerhouse of Victorian studies.
Yeah. We've got a lot of staff that specialise in that area.
On the first year, for example, you might study Dickens's Great Expectations. Slightly earlier in the 19th century, so just pre-Victorian, you might study something like Frankenstein or Jane Austen's Persuasion. But we do have a whole module devoted to the Victorian period called Revolutions and Evolutions in the second year. But once you get to the third year, you can actually specialise in lots of different types of Victorian literature. So if you want to particularly study Hardy and the Woman Question, there's a module on that. If you want to study Victorian kind of imperialism and the literature and culture associated with that, there's a module that does that. There's a module devoted to Charles Dickens, another module devoted to Victorian visual culture. So Exeter is a very, very good place to come if you want to study the Victorian period and its literature. But if you want to go on the Department of English and Film website, if you look at colleagues like Virginia Gagnier, Paul Young, John Plunkett, Tricia Jareski, Joe Kember, these are all sort of colleagues that work in Victorian literature.
Okay, so I think we can kind of wrap up a little bit by just saying a few final words on why you should choose Exeter. For my part, I think you should choose Exeter because I think it's a fantastic community. I think it's a community that's rich in ideas. I think it's a community that supports each other. As an academic working here, what makes my life worthwhile is interacting with students, hearing about your ideas, hearing about your projects, sharing those ideas in a really supportive, innovative, interesting space. How about you, Paul?
One of the nice things about working here is that I can see the sea from my office on a clear day. as like Lisa said, it's a very supportive department. It's a department that is also, I think, really excited about new questions about the texts we study. And those texts themselves might be thousands of years old, but I think you can always ask new questions of them, find new ways of analysing them. That might, there's always new readings of old texts, and I guess that's what makes the job exciting. And it excites us, and we're very kind of, I think, open-minded about how, say, technology, IT is going to help us ask questions and find new answers surrounding the texts that have fascinated us and fascinated the study of English for hundreds of years.
I think, as I think it's been said already, but it really is a very broad degree, and you can really choose where you want to go with it, and it allows you to develop not only all the skills that you're going to be learning and needing in your future, but it really develops you as a person. I feel like before coming to uni I was very close-minded. I feel like particularly this degree at Exeter has helped me broaden my worldview, I suppose, and that's what's so good about studying English, is that it's something that you can really choose and cater to yourself and what you want to learn for. But yeah, a very, very broad, diverse degree, and you'll be able to learn what you want to learn. It's not necessarily very, I don't know, it's not a closed degree, it's very open, which is something that's really unique to Exeter.
So thank you very much for tuning in and hearing us talk a bit about the Department of English and Film at Exeter. We haven't got through all the questions, but hopefully we can get back in the comments to anything we've not managed to address. And most of all, we hope you'll think very carefully and be excited about the thought of coming to study English and film here. We are. Thank you.